people that listen to our podcast, you know what they want to hear? They want to hear four fucking grizzly bears getting down on some bullshit. That's what they want to hear. Welcome to the Drivers Project podcast, featuring hosts Dominic Scelzi, JJ Hickle, Sam Hafertepe Jr., and myself, Daryl Turford.
The Drivers Project podcast is brought to you by Kaiser Aluminum Wheels. Be wiser, buy Kaiser.
Back with another Drivers Project podcast brought to you by Kaiser Wheels. And last week we put out a pod that actually got a lot of discussion going on YouTube. And one of the people that chimed in on YouTube was some David Gravel, or did David Gravel actually chimed in and said he'd like to give his thoughts on it. And as the World of Outlaws defending champion, JJ, Dom, Sam, and I figured we should probably let him say his piece. Sam isn't here right now. He should be popping on later, but we do have JJ and Dom with us. David, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, guys, for having me. Dom was surprised that I watched the show. Do I watch every single episode? No, but I definitely tune in and watch quite a bit.
We're going to edit out the part where you say you don't watch every show. Normally we do updates, but
just edit out where he says every, and just I watch every. I don't. I just watch every show.
Normally we do updates, but nobody did they?
No.
JJ, you didn't race. Dom, you didn't race. Okay, so we'll get right into it. David, there was a couple things you wanted to talk about from our last episode. We'll start with the high limit and World of Outlaws discussion. What did you want to add to that, or what points would you like to get across?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, and this charter thing, franchise deal is going to be interesting, and there's a lot of money, coming along here down the pipeline, and I think this is a crucial 2 years for the World of Outlaws to make sure they stay top dog or stay equal to high limit. I think right now and next year, the World of Outlaws thing is better. But if you look at the top 10 in points fund or franchise money, the guy finishing fifth is going to be way happier being a high limit team than a World of Outlaw team. So next year, the champion's going to be, very similar in money. Obviously you got the tow money thrown in there on top of the championship money with the World of Outlaws. So I feel like the top number is better, but throughout the field is definitely more dense there. So it's going to be interesting to see. And I heard you guys talk about like the guys that don't have charters, what are they getting for point fund money from high limit? I know they're supposed to announce that shortly, but what does that look like? What is the incentive for Logan Schuhart or I don't know, Chris Wyndham to go and try the high limit thing and take a risk for 2 years, and you're not even guaranteed to get one of those last 5 charters. So it's definitely interesting what the future holds there.
So, guys, normally I ask the questions, but I'd like anyone to hop in whenever they want tonight. It looks like Sam's about to be on. I'm going to send him the link here. My first question, David, I'm going to kind of focus on getting Sam logged in while you guys talk. David, my first observation is the last 2 times there's been 2 serious shots at going against the World of Outlaws, the USA in the 80s, the NST or NSL in the 2000s. And in both cases, the Outlaws just stayed on their own track and didn't really have to really adapt. Basically, by the end of those years, those series died. Even before the end of the year, those series died. And we kind of have this set up for a question later, but I don't mind asking it now. Do you think you're going to see the World of Outlaws who have taken a don't really acknowledge the high limit approach exists? Do you think the World of Outlaws probably will start adapting some of the things they're doing, seeing some of the things they're doing, or at the very least reacting to some of the things they're doing? And while you guys answer that, I'll get Sam logged in here.
Since I already talked, one of you guys could take that.
Yeah, so like I had this exact conversation with my brother today, and we were going over contracts, and contracts are going to be something new on the high limit side because this charter money is basically team owner money. And, like, I don't know how your deal looks, David, but I know that a lot of the guys, it's a 50% for the championship money. It's 50% for what you earn. And that's kind of what it is across the board. But with this charter thing, I'm hearing differences. I'm hearing, more nightly purse one, and I'm hearing less on the, the stuff that you're getting for the charter or for the championship. It really is going to reshape how sprint car racing works, I think. And when they first came out, the big talk was, oh, it's less races. But on their off nights, they're running the Knoxville Nationals, the Kings Royal, the National Open. They're running the same amount of races. So it really, to me, is going to come down to what's paying more to follow it around and how you manage your contract.
My fear is that the World of Outlaw sprint cars don't turn into the World of Outlaw late models. I feel like the Lucas Oil deal is kind of the number one series right now, and I just want to make sure that we're adapting and evolving and keeping ourselves ahead of the competition, or at least equal. And the less racist thing, I agree. I feel like you look at sprintcarratings.com, and pretty much everybody races the same amount of races. Brad ran a couple less, but typically everybody's within 2 or 3 races. But it's going to be interesting to see. And um, the world is changing. There's less people coming to the races and more people watching. So we're going to find out if it's better to own your own platform, or if it's better to have a massive hedge fund own your platform and, compensate you that way.
So David, I guess I got to ask this one because this wasn't planned at all. But I'm going to ask this question. I didn't plan it, but I thought of it while you were talking. And like I say, if you don't want to touch this question, don't touch this question. So last year, David, on Dirt Tracker, I believe, there started to be rumors that you guys were at least being tempted to go to High Limit. Was there any truth to that? Was it consideration? Because I feel like you were such a major player. Like we're seeing with Brad Sweet leaving. We talked last week about, man, that's a hard hit for High Limit. Was there any talk? Were the Outlaws at risk of possibly losing you guys?
I feel like there's always a risk at that. I can't say there was a massive risk, but I think you're stupid if you don't look at all the avenues and what they have to offer. And, uh, you know, Brad wanted in the worst way for me and him to battle it out one more time before he retired. And, Brad's, I feel like, a pretty honest person in that regard. He knew I was on the cusp of coming after him, and I think it would have been a great battle. And of course, the couple years away, his team falls apart and loses his crew chief, and he takes more and more on his plate. But yeah, there was definitely a chance at that. But my heart is definitely with the World of Outlaws. I've dedicated a majority of my career there. Now, if one day High Limit's paying 700,000 in the points fund and World of Outlaws is paying 350 still, I mean, that's going to probably change my opinion, because at the end of the day, I do this for a living, and um, I don't want ever the stats, the wins, the history to go away. But at the end of the day, I have to do what's best for me going down the road.
What I thought was amazing is what I thought was amazing was through your careers, you and Brad were, I mean, almost like mix and match. Your win columns, your top fives, everything was very, very close. Even your race totals were very close before the High Limit split. One big difference was the amount of cars. Like, if I think back just off the top of my head, you had won races in like 8 or 9 different, maybe even more outlaw cars. I mean, I'm talking the 6, the 83, the 5, the 2, the 41. I mean, there's a handful of cars that you were able to win in where Brad was always with one team. That 2 very different avenues to get the same results.
Yeah, it started with the 89G and then Bill Rose, and did some races for Rod Tyner, and then got in the Roth car, got fired from the Roth car, drove the 7 Destiny Motorsports, and then left there, went to CJB, and then JJR, and then the 2. So, yeah, I traveled in a t-shirt trailer of Brad's for a long time, getting hotel rooms, going to the airport that next night. We spent a lot of time together, but um, it is so hard to not have a DNF for 2 years, and I think Brad did that and Donnie did that through their reign, and I think a lot of it is luck. We had a mag clamp break at Lincoln, a couple weeks ago. Like, who does maintenance on their mag clamp on their magneto? I don't know. I've never seen that break, but it happened to do that at us at Lincoln, and I mean, the whole debacle at Devil's Bowl with Brad flipping, him and Casey crashing, and they had like a 25-minute work area that night because there's only one tow truck towing all those cars out of there. I mean, like, the stars aligned for him like crazy. And then um I don't know if you guys remember, he flipped at Husitz. Like, I mean, he flipped, I think, 20 feet in the air, and he landed, and the car rolled to the work area. And I think they put a couple coilover shocks on the front, didn't blow anything out of the rear suspension, and he goes out and runs like 12th that night. So I felt like they were just unbelievable at not DNFing and always just being solid and making sure they salvage. Um, you know, a good finish. Like, for me at Hobstadt a couple years ago, I swear I broke something in the engine or rear end or drive line, like U-joint something, and it ended up being the quick change gears. So I pulled in thinking I was done, where it was stupid on me to not go in the work area and change the quick change gears, and I would have been able to go out and finish the race. So it's just things you learn and grow as a driver, and bounce around in teams, making sure everybody's prepared in all avenues. And for a while there, KKR was the pinnacle, where before, TSR was the pinnacle.
I would definitely be willing to say that the way you've done it's the hard way, because I feel like going team to team to team like that, you learn a lot more of stuff you don't want and stuff to avoid, more so than you learn really a baseline. Like, it's hard to build something going team to team like that, which is very obvious in our sport. But yeah, I would say it's pretty impressive to do it the hard way like that and get to where you're at now.
We kind of got off track there. David, you also had some comments on Trophy Cup you wanted to get to.
Yeah, so man, I loved Trophy Cup growing up, and I was like, man, this is the coolest race ever. And when I went there the one year with the Roth 83 car, man, I couldn't do anything wrong. We got quick timed both nights, won our heat races both nights. Like, I ran, think, third and sixth or seventh in the feature. So, like, man, if you combine both nights, I probably would have a 40, 50 point lead going into the A main, but they only pick the one good night. I start 24th. It takes rubber, and I run like 15th. And I ran like 8th in points or something. I didn't, really make much money at all. But that was always my one gripe about the format after like being good every night. But I understand why. I get that. I just want to talk about Trophy Cup, about the 364-10 thing. Was kind of my biggest thing was, I talked about a little bit with Dom, is, man, the 360 thing with SCCT was like the shit for a while.
Yeah.
And then now it doesn't seem to be the shit out there anymore. And I just feel like there's a wave of the 410 thing coming. I know you guys have concerns of, it being a 410 race, which it sounds like it probably will. But I just don't know. Like, the struggle for me is the 360 thing, and Sam has been around long enough to know that 360 engines used to be affordable. I started in 2007 or 2008 when engine blocks were still not lightened, heads were not ported and lightened, and shit. My first 360 had a Vertex mag. It didn't even have MSD on it, but you could buy a brand new engine for, 29,000, 32,000 from Don Ott, who was the shit back then. But we all know when the Fords came along with, JJR, it made the Chevys look like boat anchors, and they had to change the rules to make the Chevys competitive. And from that point on, I just feel like that class, in my opinion, is a tough sell, especially more today when you had the glory of ASCS, when you had Shane Stewart racing and Brady Bacon and Jason Johnson. And, I felt like the money was actually pretty damn solid back then. I don't know, like, if 360s say go away one day, what do you do with all those engines? Or if it turns into a very obsolete class, like that's the big problem, right? There's so many great 360 engines in our country. It's like there's no good way about it. But on the economic side, I just feel like it's broken today, or it has been for the last 5-ish years.
I think there's a lot we can dig into here. My first reason for saying this, and it's my first pushback is I talked to Dom. Dom and I were having a conversation about 2 or 3 years ago, and Dom basically told me there was basically only 24 410s in California at the time. Now I don't know if Dom is that accurate.
I would say we probably have 40 410s with different teams, and you're probably going to see 35 of them at the absolute fucking max in one night.
And that's like the core of my problem is like the trophy cup needs to be just a ton of cars, and like just from the way Dom's described it to me, there's just not enough 410s in the area to support that as a 410 race. Is I don't know.
And what 410s are going to travel all the way there to do it? You know what I mean? Obviously.
So
And
I
then
think another part of that too, and like, dude, I'm telling you, I'm a 410 guy through and through. I love 410s, and not anything against the 360s. It's just I think the 410s are so much harder to handle. Whereas a 360 is a little bit more stable in the nose, and a 410 just it's a completely different beast. But I think that when you like, if you put the Outlaw show this year at Tulare, and you inverted 24 cars, very few guys are going to be plus 10 spots. There's a good shot that a guy off the front row of the B main that won the B main is going to win it. And that's what my fear is, if you don't get the only two ways it can go is either it stays a 360 race and you feed into that adversity and the discrepancies in the field where you've got the guy that's starting on the pole is, slower than the guy starting 24th by not a substantial amount, but he's going to be a couple tenths off to where you can make that up. Or you go the opposite where you have to get guys like David and Brad and Reitzel and Rico, and they're racing a normal NARC show, but you have 4 or 5 real hitters that can drive from 24th to 4th or 5th. Like, to me, that's the only way it works. Because if you, just like you said, David, when it laid rubber and you went 24th to 15th and you got a fucking bag of Cheerios, it's no good for anybody. It has to be a race that's conducive to passing. It has to be fan friendly in the sense that there's guys that are making big moves. And, I think it's harder to pass guys there with a 410 than it is a 360, only because a lot of the 410s are a lot more close in speed than the 360 stuff. There's a bigger diversity.
another thing I wanted to add is I haven't even talked to Sam about this, but Dom asked me today we're planning on doing a high limit year in review next week with Chase Rodman, Tony Laporte, and Tyler Courtney, and then at the end of the year we're going to do a World of Outlaw year in review. But Dom has actually asked us to give the ASCS a year in review. I haven't even told Sam this yet, and in that year in review type thing, I think Sam and I are going to go pretty hardcore into the issues of 360 right now on a level that probably no one's really gone to. So I do think we're actually going to address a lot of what David said, because it is a problem, right? Like
There's lots of problems.
in some ways, I think 410s are way more expensive than people think compared to a 360, and then other ways, David's right, they are close. Like,
Yeah, the core cost of a 360 versus a 410, obviously it's not enough to even worry about. Like it's they're so close. If a guy was like, well, I'm going to buy a brand new motor, well, 410s race for more money on average. You'd say, oh, I'm going to buy a 410. Some of the values that probably get lost in the translation of things is, for me to run a 360 cost wise to go up and down the road to race a 360 is considerably less than it costs to run a 410. Obviously, you're racing for a lot less money. Rebuilds are roughly the same. 360s are going probably, I'd say, 10 more nights on average than a 410. The tire bill is
That's the big-
majorly different. It's majorly different. Like you guys could go to, you pick the track, and you could go to an outlaw show or a high limit show at that said track, and I mean, and we're burning off a set of tires in the feature in every time. You know, like it's very seldom will David Gravel's race team run the same right rear a couple nights in a row. Like it's not going to happen. 360 racing, it happens all the time. I've won back-to-back features on the same right rear tires sometimes. So that's where the major costs are different, the operating costs. But yeah, I mean, the simple fact that we've got the price of the engines the same, that's incredibly stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know how we ever got to that point. And I honestly, I'll be straightforward with it, is because almost every big 410 team, even smaller 410 teams, all have 360s for the most part. Most do. So when you have that, all these teams that have the endless dollars are like, man, well, I want the best 360 there is. Well, these smaller teams, they have to step up to that level if they want to compete. If they go, like ASCS never touches Knoxville, they never go there. No ASCS guy ever competes at Knoxville besides me. And these guys don't have the money to afford to buy these high dollar engines. And that's what it always was. Now, when these big teams have bought into 360 motors, it's made, like, I wouldn't have the engines I have unless I had to. My car owner wants to know if I go to Knoxville, we got a legitimate shot to win. If we go to, and any of these other places, we have a legitimate shot to win, because say Justin Peck comes to Volusia at the beginning of the year and they got a new piece. Well, he's super, super fast. Well, my car owner wants to be on that same page, but not all 360 guys can do that. And that is why the cost of engines have skyrocketed the way they have, is the bigger teams have bought them because they want to race these bigger 360 races. And essentially it raises the value of these engines tremendously.
Yeah, like I'll honestly say, I honestly think it's like 4 or 5 people that have really wrecked it for 360s. And I'm not going to say their names, but if they're listening and I say this, they're going to know it's them. There are like 4 or 5 guys that literally will like see an engine sitting there and talk to their engine builder and be like, I want a brand new 360. And the engine builder go, oh, and you've all heard this. Oh, everyone's like a year out right now on a motor. Unless you're David Gravel, you're the World of Outlaw champion, they'll probably rush one through. But in general, everyone's like a year out. And then that rich car owner goes, well, what's that motor sitting there? And they'll say, oh, that's so-and-so's. He's just waiting to pick it up. And they'll say, I'll buy it right now. And they'll say, the guy doesn't want to sell it right now. And then they say some stupid astronomical number like, I'll buy that for 90. And the thing gets sold. Yeah. And then the engine builders watch this happen, and it just builds from there, and it gets gotten ridiculous. And I'll honestly say, I honestly think it's like 4 or 5 teams that have wrecked it for everybody in 360s, and they're not even teams.
And that's not just 360s. That's across the board, Daryl. Like that's happened to everything.
Yeah, but that's what's crazy about just engines in general. I would never imagine that we're approaching $80,000 for a sprint car motor. Like that's what's crazy to me. But the way I view it is 305 racing is still somewhat affordable. Now I do hear these stories now. Somebody's approaching 30,000 for the baddest 305 motor now. Which again, why is that a thing? You know what I mean? Because I feel like you could run a 305 engine the whole season, and it is. Ask mom. Go see mom. and it's affordable, but right competition. There's always gonna be that guy that pushes the bar, raises the level there. But I mean, I don't know 360 racing like you guys do, but I feel like there's 100 teams in the country that has just as good as motor as anybody in the country. If it's the Canadian guys up there, all those guys got good motors. You go to Eldora. I remember that car Randy Hannigan drove. That guy always had a hard hitting engine. You know, it's weird though.
It's all the same engine builder.
Yeah, it's all Fisher. Yeah.
Something 20% of the 360 Nationals was on a Fisher motor this year, some number like that.
Yeah,
Jeez.
17 of those were there.
Really?
Yeah, and I know riders run well. People are high on rider 360s. Obviously they're doing a good job for both 410 and 360, but it's just really interesting. Like I don't know. There's no fix to it all. But then my question is, we're monopolizing sprint car racing, right? Right. World Racing Group owns ASCS. High Limit pretty much owns NARC and pretty much owns Trophy Cup
And
because
the
of
All-Star.
Yeah.
and the All Stars because of Rudine and all these alliances. So when I saw that World Racing Group bought ASCS, in my opinion, I'm like, oh, that's going to be the new All Stars. They're going to either try to make that 410s one day, or that's going to be the feeder series to feed the next generation of 410 guys to travel on the road. And nobody told me that, but that's just the way my mind thought of it when they
Same.
acquired that. And maybe they're going to keep the 360s for their entirety. Maybe Sam knows more than I do, but I feel like that could possibly be an option if they feel like there's a place for that.
Yeah, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. The rumor was when they bought the ASCS, they were looking really, really hard into trying to make engine rules that would allow a 410 and a 360 to compete against each other. I'm not going to say that as a fact, but I'm going to say that was pretty close. I believe they were working with injections, and they got close on the top end, but the torque of a 410 was just they couldn't keep them even with that. And I think that hurt a lot of their plans. And Sam and I are going to get into this. I don't think they've really had a great plan since then. I think they really thought they were going to be able to make this series where guys could run 410s and 360s. And now this, like Sam and I are about to Sam's about to have a meeting where we discuss the future of this, because people are 2 years in going, what are we doing with this series?
So with that, I wanted to kind of touch base with World Racing Group and, High Limit and Flow. Where do you think High Limit is doing a better job, and where do you think the Outlaws are doing a better job?
Yeah, so in my opinion, the depth of Dirt Vision broadcast I feel like is better, right? The pre-race show with sorry, his name is not coming to me. Yep. And I feel like that's great. I feel like they have a more complete show. I would like Connor to graduate and maybe be in the booth full time with Johnny, because I feel like it would be cool to have the person talking in there. And I feel like in all of sports, it's never just typically one guy, maybe baseball, but other than that, you always have kind of that sidekick. But I feel like Dirt Vision does a very, very good job. I feel like that's their strong suit. Obviously, their brand and name is a strong suit. And then I feel like just their benefits of guaranteed benefits is something that has kept people around, and why you saw so many rookies this year. I felt a decent amount of guaranteed money. Um, for High Limit on what they did good, obviously a lot of buzz. They're using that Kyle Larson Avenue to their full advantage, having that date in Texas when the NASCAR race is there, and Vegas to start the year. And I feel like there's a lot of excitement around those items. I think I definitely heard that Corey Day is going NASCAR. I feel like Corey Day stayed in High Limit. That would be a big asset for them. But um, I think that's what they're doing best, and they're throwing a lot of money around in a short time. And is that feasible? Is Flow? Does that not even hurt them at all? But it's frustrating for me as a driver, where the Gold Cup paid 15,000 for how many years, and all of a sudden it's a High Limit race, and now it's 100 grand. And we went to Skagit for how long? For
Right.
15 or 20,000 or 26,000 on that second night, and now it's 126,000 the first year of a High Limit event. So I feel like Flow is all in on making High Limit successful. My question is, how long do they commit themselves and their checkbook on supporting them? Because I know there's been home runs for high limit events, but then there's been plenty of events that the fans didn't show up at, right? And they lost plenty of money. So that's my curiosity there. And um, as far as their broadcasts, I think Tony talks a lot, like, right, and does the joking around and stuff. And I don't know. To me, I'm just kind of a purist, like Johnny. I think commentates a more exciting race. I think Chase has a very different voice, and it's just a different vibe. And sometimes I think they're funny, and sometimes I think they're not. But that's anybody, right? That's anybody's opinion. But um, yeah, we're gonna see that. That's kind of the skimming off the top there on kind of my view.
I honestly think what he said there was, I think it's spot on.
Yeah.
Like we've agreed that Johnny's probably, like he does a very professional job, and we agreed last time that we actually enjoyed that initially, and then that, like I say, over time, there's part of me like I could tell you from the get go, Tony Laporta, I didn't like it right out the gate, and now like it's kind of grew on me. I don't even know why, but I don't dislike it. It kind of got to a point where, and I don't know if it's because of the broadcast. I think Dirt Vision does a better job altogether. I would agree with that. I do think that whatever high limit, the buzz, whatever it is appealing to me now more. Like if I'm off on a race weekend and I have a weekend off, which I race ASCS, so that's a lot. I would tend to watch the high limit show over the outlaw show later in the year, just because of that buzz. Like I could tell you right now, if I'm going to watch an outlaw show, I'm going to watch three guys compete for a win. If I watch a high limit show, I might see Danny Sams win a race, or I might see, it's the parity there I think is a big thing they have going. I mean,
I don't know why that is, right, Sam? Like you were on the Outlaw Tour. I feel like always each guy in the Outlaw Tour won an outlaw race somehow. If the stars aligned and this and happened and that happened, but I think that happened more when they did the 12 and 16 car invert.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
With the 4 and 3 heat race programs. And I think there's a little bit more of the gimmicky, or not gimmicky, but more opportunity with high limit to not be on your game and still get yourself in the dash. You don't need to be quick time or the top 4 to get in the dash. I feel like you could kind of trip and fall and get into a dash a little bit easier than you can in a World of Outlaw thing. I think that's why it's so cutthroat with the Outlaws. And to me, I don't think it hasn't. The win totals haven't been like this probably since Steve and Sammy dominated. The World of Outlaw, of the top 3 guys winning all the races, and that's it. Or maybe when Donnie won 30 races in 1 year, and then Joey probably won 10 or 15 in a season, something like that. But I felt like it was a very odd season where, Logan, Donnie, Sheldon didn't win many races, where they always kind of carry the load. And I feel like they're always good for 5 to 8 wins. And this year they just didn't have that high limit. Everybody so up and down. It seems like that anybody could win any night.
So I think one thing that is a big part of that is your top 3 qualifiers are your top 3 feature winners with the series and your top 3 point earners. So like you and Buddy and Carson are I feel so much better than everyone else in qualifying that you guys don't really have off nights. And I can think of maybe 1 or 2 nights throughout the whole year where all 3 of you guys weren't on, the front row or the pole of of the heat race. So when you have guys like, you 3, you don't really have off nights. Whereas I think the high limit thing, those guys are exceptionally good. And I think if you look at them as a whole, both series are very close to equally tough, but the consistency is not there. Like Rico had, a month or so or 6 weeks where, he couldn't do shit and he had a bunch of bad nights. You don't really see that out of yourself or Carson or Buddy. Like Your guys' bad nights were 5th or 6th. And I just see a lot more jumbling up there with the high limit guys because truly, and this is not a dig on them at all. I think the high limit has a great product, but if you took all of the guys and combined them into one, the top 3 are still going to be the top 3. It's going to be you and Buddy and Carson as the top 3 guys. I think Rico slots in, 4th, honestly. And that's not a dig with anyone else. It's just the consistency that the Outlaw schedule creates. If you're going to be at the top of that level, like that's where you're at. None of the guys on the high limit series have been at the top of that level yet.
To circle back on one thing that I don't like about a series, and I don't know what your guys' opinion is, but I truly hope that finishing the podium or top 4 on a 2-day show locks you into a quick time spot for that second night. In my opinion, it should not be a points race then, because how if a guy has a bad night 1 and this other guy won and he's automatically starting in a gas spot pretty much and just has to idle around there. And Texas, there's only 26 cars and there was 5 shit boxes there, right? So like these guys are guaranteed having a good first night. They're guaranteed in the gas both nights where these guys are inconsistent, right? Like look at Lucas Oil. One night you could be quick in qualifying, and next time you could be, way buried qualifying. So that is one thing. I don't know why they want to do that or like to do that, but in my opinion, racing for coins, each night should be its own night. Now, if we're racing for 150,000 to win or 300,000 to win, and you're earning points for the event, I get that, but I 100% hate that idea.
I could not agree more.
Yeah, that's unanimous.
I liked it when I was at TMS in the spring. I mean, it was fine for me,
but it makes it easier, right? That it makes it
way easier.
If a guy unloads there fast and quick times and wins the feature night 1, I mean, his weekend's very easy. He's going to start top 6 in the feature and probably run podium or top 5. And I don't know. I just don't like it.
It literally made me pull out another car that I wasn't sure about, and I ran it the next night because I knew I was going to be locked in. I took a whole car. We raced on Thursday. I took a whole new car for Saturday just to run a different car because I knew I was locked in. I would have never showed up and said, man, I'm going to try to qualify, top 5 or whatever with this car because I wouldn't be sure about it. But I didn't have to qualify, and I got a test session, and I got basically a free heat race. So it enabled me to do that. So yeah, I mean, you're definitely right on that. There's 100%. It's if you're racing for points long term, that's definitely not something that I think is advantageous for the series.
I feel like, I'm sorry, but I feel like World of Outlaws is so old school and tradition that, right, the rules have been the same forever. I feel like High Limit is just fishing to try new ideas, just like the starts of the heat race. You could pick inside, outside, the choose cone, this deal getting locked in, shock adjusters, you know what I mean? Like, right. I feel like they're just fishing and shaking it up and seeing what's good, seeing what's bad. And for the traditional people, they definitely don't like that. But I applaud them for trying new things and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't. And the choose cone has added another layer to the races. And it probably works out sometimes, and it's probably the worst thing ever sometimes, some nights for a driver. But I think the fans like that. The fans love the dice roll. The fans love all those things, and they buy into that. And most of the time, that means the purist racers probably don't, but the fans do, right? Like, it's just there's two sides to it.
So
I think some of the stuff that they've done, though, is like, there's hits and misses for sure, but like, I completely agree that the taking 4 for the next night, like, everything should be earned as far as a points deal goes. But I do think that, like, the reason that Sam's talking about rather tune into a high limit shows that parity that's created through the inverts and not having to maybe have such an elite motor program to get yourself on the front row of a heat race. And as a racer, it's more appealing for a guy like me to go and know that I have to qualify, in the top 6 or the top 8 to be on the front row of a heat race rather than top 4. But But yeah, it is, some of the stuff they do does feel like it is a hit. Like, the choose cone thing, even if it doesn't work out for you, you really have nobody to blame but yourself. So it's kind of it's a good deal, I think, but they definitely, there's hits and misses, but I do, like you said, I like that they're trying something.
Well, the number one thing that they have the advantage of, they have the ability to try something.
Yeah.
Like the Outlaws, nothing's been broke, so why are we going to change, right? And these guys are like, fuck it, we could throw this at it, we could throw that at it, and if it works out, great. I mean, and being honest, like I don't think it's advantageous on their side. Like it put the Outlaws in a situation like, okay, if you're them, well, what do we do? Well, I feel like they've done exactly what they should do. Let's stay the course. Let's do it. We're not changing our program. Let's do what we know how to do. We do what got us to this point, and they've done very well with it. Like people, oh man, they're going to overtake the Outlaws. There's no fucking way they're going to overtake the Outlaws. I don't see that happening. But I do think there is a world where both of these still will operate. And David brought up a good point. How long till the money runs out? How long till they decide, hey man, are we still going to keep giving all this money to keep fishing to see how much fans we're going to get to these races? Like at some point, that does level out. It's cool right now, but how long does it last? And I still think they have something long term there. I just don't see it always being this big long term.
I think the new will wear off at some point. I think they have a great product. I think they've done a fantastic job to grow their credibility in such a short time. They've got some fantastic drivers on their side, but I just do feel like the best guys in the country are the top 3 in the Outlaw points. And I mean, I think Rico's had an amazing year. Rico can beat any of the Outlaw guys on any night, but not every night, not consistently. And I think that's what, like when you're picking the top dog, the number 1 guy, I feel a little bit of like, you may not feel this, David, but if I were you, I would feel a little bit of irritation in the fact that there's 2 national champions when I think that, like, for me, there's a pretty definitive guy who's number 1.
Well, the biggest frustrating thing is Rico defeated Brad Sweet. And like we talked about before, I felt like, Brad was very good at what he did to win championships, but I felt like, he didn't DNF and certain things went his way where I felt like, to me, like they went the worst they could be in some certain nights. But, a fact is a fact, and Rico did beat Brad Sweet, but I think everybody knows Brad Sweet was probably at about 60% this year. And I think just his savviness, his being a veteran, could carry the car to run 7th through 10th every single night, no matter if his car was dog shit or not, right? Like that's where he's gonna finish. And I think I saw in sprint car ratings that I think he actually had more top 5s than Rico did this year. And I could be wrong there, but him getting hurt and then him just not having the ability to win races like he's used to, winning just a couple or maybe 5 where, he's accustomed to winning about 8 a year, and in a good year, he'll win 15. So I think that's where Rico had the ability and how the points are structured with high limit. I believe you're earning more points in the top 5. So like winning a race is huge. And I think that's why the points are close because it's like 1 point per position, I believe, outside the top 5. So, you get on a roll like that's tough, right? You guys could say that, the best 3 teams are the Outlaws, which I probably agree, but you don't know what Reitzel's season looks like if he ran the whole season, and you don't know what Sunshine's looks like if he ran the whole season. Sunshine did struggle to start the year in comparison to other years, and Reitzel did great for the beginning of the year, but man, the one that sticks out to me is Lernerville for Reitzel. He had just a terrible weekend at Lernerville, and I'm not really sure why. I feel like his car has speed in qualifying, and that was just a weekend. I feel like that really stung for those guys.
David, we talked last week on the show about how we feel like in the pit sitter race, the drivers and teams generally consider the World of Outlaw guys tougher. But there's definitely, when I read our social media, a view from the fans that high limit is much tougher. Why do you think that is? Why do you think people are getting that perception? I mean, you go to the Knoxville Nationals and you literally passed everybody in the country that mattered, except for one guy at the most important race after you basically essentially started last. Why do you think that perception's there?
You just look at the facts, right? Just like you guys are talking about the parity of winning, right? Like so many guys have won races. And I think they're just more of a mix up there where, Buddy, I, and Carson, have won probably 70% of the races. So I think that's how they're viewing it. And I disagree with them. I think that I can't say if high limit's tough or not because I'm not out there racing with those guys. But I know when we go to these big events, you fear certain guys to race against. And say at Eldora, the only two people that you look at that are probably going to be fast at Eldora is Reitzel and Rico, right? They have great big track programs. And then for us, you look at our top three, very, very good, but you can never count Donnie out at Eldora and you can never count Sheldon out. And Logan Schuhart's the $1 million man. So I feel like you go to Eldora, you got 6 guys that could legitimate sweep the week if they get their shit together. You know what I mean? So it's just so interesting to me because if you look at the roster, I think high limit is a little bit deeper, but it's so crazy to me that Brent Marks isn't like flourishing. And I think that he's just destined to be a pick and choose guy and thrive that way, but he's committing to the high limit thing. But like that's a guy that was the number 1 guy in the country a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And to me, he just kind of blends in my opinion. I'm doing the high limit thing. And Rico had inconsistencies, but I think when his car's on, there's nobody faster, on that deal for sure.
And that's one thing I also think gets underrated for the perception. Like everyone talks about like a high limit field being deeper, but we're talking like there's only 3 outlaw guys, and it's like Schuhart, Sheldon, Baylog, and then a pretty good group of rookie Donnie Schatz. Like I feel like even the second half of the top 10 with the Outlaws is vastly underrated right now.
Yeah, I think it's very similar. You look at the bottom of both series, right? Danny Sams' team not prepared to run a traveling series. Connor Morell not prepared to run a traveling series, right? And you got, the Bill Rose call, you know what I mean? And then Cy Lynch who's just learning on how to be on the road. So I think it's very, very similar. I would put Bill Baylog at the Justin Peck level. You know what I mean? I think Garrett Williamson has done a very good job, and I think they're going to continue to get better. And if he just cleans up some of his aggressiveness of his crashing and stuff, he probably would be a spot higher in points potentially, or maybe 2. So it's definitely interesting. Like Chase Randall, right? They pieced that team together last minute to go on the high limit deal. I'm guaranteed that they probably weren't prepared to do a full high limit schedule, and they probably really liked having those 3 weeks off or whatever they had in the beginning of the season. So I don't know. It's so odd to me that you could buy all the best equipment, but today the separation from the top teams and then tier B is very big right now, and I'm not sure why that is. 100%, I think it's mostly because of crew chiefs, but I just feel like there's a big separation there.
I feel like Sam definitely would want to touch on that one.
Yeah, I think it's everything. We've lost so many really good crew chiefs over time that have either gotten out and we've never been able to really revamp that. The younger guys coming through, there's not a lot of guys, really wanting to take that responsibility to go to that next level. Like Cody Jacobs, I remember when, he wasn't a crew chief. I remember some of the earlier years and
Ripper.
he's one of the, yeah. These guys are some of the few guys that actually have taken that next step. And you just don't see that anymore. The next wave of guys coming through, I'm not saying they don't want to be crew chiefs. I don't feel like a lot of the younger guys today want to put in the time it actually takes to be that position and to really own that position. I think we have a lot of pretend guys, a lot of guys that, want to play that part and think they know, or at least say they know, and then they get in the limelight and then they don't succeed. So I would like to see that change. It would be good for all of sprint car racing, especially as big as it's getting right now. The 410 game is so big and it's flourishing. We definitely have the need for those guys, but there just isn't enough good ones to go around. And that's why I think you see the same core teams always being a notch above everybody else.
And the other thing I'd expand on that is like when Sam and I did the World of Outlaws in like 2009, 10, 11, there was a lot of times it was just Sam and I going up and down the road for like 2 or 3 months, just me and him. And you could do that. And we've spoken about this on older pods. Sam and I didn't realize that change had happened in 410 racing. Like when Sam got with Miles, we thought, yeah, we'll just get a car chief and some kid to do tires, and we'll be able to compete with the 410s no problem. And that was a rude awakening for Sam and I. Like I don't like all these teams now, like they have like the 3 guys, and the 3 guys are really solid. And I think that's been a massive difference over the years that separated the top teams.
Yeah, and it's not to say these newer, younger guys aren't good at what they do. They are good at what they do, but to get to that next level of being a crew chief, it's a major undertaking. There's a lot more to it than, well, this guy told me what to put in a race car, so that's what we're running tonight, and it's just it's a lot different than that. I feel like, like Daryl was saying, probably I would say around 2015, 2016, I really feel like the World of Outlaw sprint cars took a huge turn in that direction. Like everything started, it started being a lot harder to compete with just, a guy like me with a couple crew guys that were just, maintenance guys and stuff like that. Like you needed those 3 really solid guys. You needed that crew chief. And now I feel like to be competitive out there, you have to have that night in and night out. I feel like a guy that's good in his region can come make a good showing with the Outlaws or High Limit, maybe a couple races a year, but never consistently. They couldn't pack up for 4 or 5 weeks and solidly run decent. It just wouldn't happen.
Anyone have any other questions before I start throwing out other questions?
Add to that, like when it comes to the crew chief thing that we're hitting on, I think if you took the top 100 drivers in the sprint car world from like 21 to 100, if a guy got into a car that was pretty good or a guy got onto a run, he could easily jump 60 or 70 of those, guys. Just, let's say guy number 100 puts a couple great months together. He's now in your top 25. Those top 20 drivers are elite. And I think with the crew chiefs, I think it's even tighter to like there's 10 elite, incredibly dialed in crew chiefs in the sprint car community. And there's maybe another 30 or 40 pretty good guys on the wrenches, but you have a handful of elites that will raise elite drivers. Those top 20 drivers and top 20 crew chiefs, when they're together, I mean, they're damn near unbeatable. I mean, they're that good. Like you think of a Brent Marks right now, they're elite on both ends, and they're 4th or 5th in high limit points. But I mean, we saw him sweep the Eldora week a couple years ago. I mean, same team. So to me, those elites from the driver's side and the chief side are so on their game. I mean, a David is just going to, not you, David, but like I'm talking David versus Goliath. Like this little guy, it's really hard to go in there and beat those big guys.
I remember Travis Jacobson winning, right? And all these random guys winning outlaw races, and it obviously Dave Blaney and Dale Blaney won Sharon, but I mean they got the advantage at that situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, but that goes back to what you were saying earlier. We used to invert, the 16 or whatever, and I think that's changed things quite a bit. Like if they did that today, that would be majorly different. Like I think that it would shake things up a shit ton.
Yeah, like I always say this stat, and I've said it on the pod before. when they did I would run the numbers of what was the most common position in qualifying for feature winner. The two most common qualifying positions for a feature winner when we were inverting 16 was 13 and 14 the year I did it. Like, and I don't think people understand that. Like, you always see these fans wanting these massive inversion races. And I honestly think we've gotten really lucky with the races we do. Like, I don't think people realize like how often that 14th quick time trialer can win a race easily. And David, that is another thing I hadn't really thought about, but we are kind of seeing like the death of the upset winner. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't really. I've said this to Sam off air. I've never understood why people made like such a big deal out of TJ Stutz's win at the Grove. Like, shit, we used to go to the Grove all the time, and some guy like TJ Stutz would win. But now that I think about it, there aren't a lot of these upsets left. Like, that's a thing of the past. Like, what you got, Travis Arends, and you've got your TJ Stutz. But after that, your list of like upset winners at big tracks is pretty low compared to.
Cole Stark's, in my opinion, a little bit of an upset, but he's really good in that region. But
Yeah.
it's still a little bit of a surprise to put a whole night together, just because he hasn't done it before. He's won all-star races and he won a prelim night at Knoxville, but those are short races. So I feel like that was a little bit, I think, borderline upset.
Yeah, especially to
Yeah.
do it 2 nights in a row.
Yeah, the second night in a row at a different track was definitely that was badass.
I think that's also the reason why like the Bill Bay log has been everybody wants to see that, right? Like the underdog story. And honestly, it's like, to me, he's not an underdog anymore. Like he's surfaced, you know what I'm saying? Like he's turned that corner, but to see him get the win earlier this year, just stuff like that. I feel like that's why that's so cool for the fans, is because we don't really get to see that anymore.
Yeah. I think it's a negative for the Outlaws, that, and I just don't know why it's happened, but it's so hard to win a race and put a whole night together. Like, one mistake on my end and I'm losing a race. Like, say if Chris Wyndham starts on a pole of a race, like, I don't care the situation. It's really, really hard to seal the deal. All these double foul restarts and all these things. It just, I truly think though, still today, like, I don't know the stats 100%, but I know them pretty well. But like Buddy actually didn't qualify that great this year, but the amount of times he started second row to end the year in the heat race and got into the dash was unbelievable. It didn't matter where he started in the heat race, he made the dash. So I feel like if any of those guys, even Garrett Williamson, to put a whole feature together, if there's an invert or not, I still think the top guys get in the dash because they'll be higher qualifiers and then, lock in that way. But I just think there's just that big separation, just look at laps led. Laps led are very, very heavy on the top three winners as well. So it's not like a lot of other guys led a bunch of laps and gave it up late. Like they were never in that position. So I don't know. It's all very, very interesting, and the world of sprint car racing is definitely changing.
So do you feel like a giant piece of shit when you rob some poor local of their first ever win so you
Yeah.
can get your 104th?
But like I haven't even been in that situation other than Schwiegen with Connor Morell. That's the only time that I could.
And I will say, you were pretty nice when TJ Stutz won. Like, you could tell you were not stoked to run second, but you were friendlier than I expected about it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was going to win the race, and he got his wing back, and it was like the track took rubber for him, and he was just like locked down. I was like, holy shit! Like these last 3 laps, he was amazing. Like he did a good job. You know what I mean? And you never want to lose, and especially to a surprise winner like that. But shit, I was happy for him.
Yep. You made Connor Morell cry, David.
I mean, I'm telling you, I wasn't that good in that race till halfway through and we burnt fuel off, and then our car was amazing at the end. But like, shit, it's hard to feel good at Tweegan when you're going that slow with no grip on the racetrack. But I'm excited to go back for 2 more days.
Luckily, Daryl, he was able to wipe the tears with his tub of towels.
Yes,
had to be said. We always get morale.
That's America.
We always
America.
get morale with this tub of towels references, man. That was better than the last one.
He did a great job that night,
He
though.
did.
I mean,
I don't think
he's
I don't
improved
think
a
he cried
shitload.
because he ran. I don't think he cried because he lost. I think he cried because he was happy to run second. To be honest,
Yeah,
no,
I'm
he was
being-
frustrated he didn't win. I mean,
no,
it was
definitely did.
actually a very good, like, passionate interview, but he was definitely
Yeah, it was an excellent-
frustrated because he may never be in that spot again. You know, I mean, that's what he said in the interview. Like, he gets it.
I remember running third to Brad and David at Hanford, the last outlaw race they had there. And like, I was all over Brad, and I dicked up on a restart, and David got by me late. And I remember I was like, I didn't even want to be on the podium. I was so mad. David's like, "Oh, dude, like, good job. Like, you ran third." I'm like, I want to shoot myself right now. I was so mad about it. But I mean, it's so hard to beat them top guys.
Yeah, we could do a pod probably on our heartbreaks against the world of Outlaws. Like, we can do.
I have quite a few of them.
And I still don't think people grasp, like, when they hear David talk about, like, how hard it is to put a whole night together. I don't think people truly understand that. Like, when I
Coming
think
from a guy that's already won 16 features or however many he's won, that's coming from a guy that's done it a lot, you know?
yeah, like I think of every single heartbreak we had, and what amazes me about the top level is, like, Sam can get a lead in an ASCS race, and it's rare to have like a 3-4 comfortable margin where you're just like hoping traffic doesn't mess up in front of them. But with the Outlaws and High Limit, it blows me away that when you're leading those races, you are very safe. Like, there is just always pressure on you, and I think people just massively underestimate how hard it is to put a whole night together.
Like, I truly think that a 20-win season for High Limit or World of Outlaws, it might not happen again. Like, I know I got to 16, felt like it's been an amazing year, but we're still 4 away, you know? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be a hard task to ever happen again.
I was going to ask you, so you guys got out to such a really good start to start the year. And then, you know, even it's not like you guys fell off, but it felt like to me, like, as a guy from the outside looking in, like, what do you think changed? Do you think you guys were just better prepared to start the year than everybody else? Or and they bridged the gap from where from where they were? Because like, it felt like if you're a guy watching, it looks like you guys slowed down a little bit maybe, and everybody else maybe catches up. Do you think you guys just had like a huge advantage to start the year and these guys caught up? Or do you guys get into the point where you start driving differently because you've got this big points lead and you're not trying to get rid of that, or what is like, what do you think changes throughout the course of the year? Obviously you're still winning races, but maybe not at the clip you were at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you just don't have a chance to win the race. You're just not as good. But I felt like, so I believe right now our average finish is 3.8, I believe, right? So in my opinion, that's amazing, right? But to start the year, Buddy had a very, very rough Volusia. And then I feel like after the first month or so, he's been good all year. But he definitely won more races. I feel like Huset's week on, right? Like, I feel like he turned another gear a little bit. Carson struggled to win races there for a long time, and then he got on the streak where he won like 3 of 5, or, you know, he got to win some races, but they had a bunch of DNFs. And I think that's what's, you know, hurt them for sure, is they've, I think, blown up a couple engines, and I think a crash or that beadlock bolt deal at Peevely, right? They've had a bunch of little different things happen. For us, we've had a crankshaft failure in Wisconsin that DNF'd us to, I think, a 21st place finish. We had that mag clamp break at Lincoln, and that made us finish 26, so that scores us 24th. And then you have that debacle at Bakersfield with the checkered and my flat and stuff like that. So there's 3 big situations there where I was running second at Lincoln, I was running second at Bakersfield, and I was probably going to run 8th or 7th or 8th at Wisconsin. So you fix those 3 nights where it had nothing to do with my team, had nothing to do with any mistakes I made, and they're just strictly part failures. And really, the points, are definitely looking a lot different. So I just think Buddy turned it up in the sense of just being more consistent, and it just seemed to be like me and Buddy every night, right? And it didn't matter what track it was. It was just me and Buddy for the last 30 races, say.
And that's something I wanted to kind of touch on. Like at the start of the year, I said Buddy had an awful start to the season, and I think these guys thought I was on crack because like Buddy would run like 7th, 11th at Volusia. Like I don't remember the exact results, but these guys were like, "Well, that wasn't terrible," but in my eyes, that was terrible because you are talking about like a 3.8 average finish. Like those are disasters in a World of Outlaw race. That 3.8 finishing record, like, do you feel like that's going to be a tough standard to meet for in the future? Because that number to me is insane.
100%. Like this year, there was never a night that we like unloaded and man, we're just like terrible. Last year we went to Merced. I was the last car in Merced. I tried to hammer the cushion as best I could. There was nothing left, and I qualified like, 28th or whatever, and had to piece together a 16th place finish that night. Like this year, that didn't happen one time. We just always put ourselves in position, and I'm just so impressed what we've been able to do to qualify as consistent. And I don't know what my average qualifying deal is this year, but I believe it's in the 3 range as well. And I don't think I've been anywhere close to that in my career. Like I think I've probably been 5th or 6th maybe, but I think consistently unloading close is what we just thrived on this year. And why that is, I don't know. We didn't say the same stuff as last year at certain places and did others. And, Cody just got me comfortable, got me confident, and just always provided me with a car that had grip in the racetrack early in the night and put ourselves in position.
Now, how much longer do you think Cody wants to do it?
I don't know, not forever though. I say he's got a couple years left, 2 or 3, but that could change. Barry Jackson's been trying to retire for 20 years. But shit, he might say after next year he's done, you know what I mean? And I don't blame him for it, In my opinion, he's put in the work and luckily he's got himself in a good position now and making a great living. So to me, I know it's a people sport and um, we don't have that follow-up guy. We have a great car guy with Pete Stevens right now, but he's not a guy that's taken over Cody's position. Pete's got a couple years in him doing it for fun. He's an older guy and he's doing a great job. And Zach is a tire guy and, he's not at the point where he's going to jump up 2 levels at the race team. So, yeah, we just, how this is, Dom, right? You probably never thought you would have um, your crew chief that you got rid of this year ever on your team, and then you probably would have thought you'd never race without him. You know what I mean? And now you are. It's the way the sport, goes and changes year to year. Like to me, you could maybe see the future of 2 or maybe 3 years out. But other than that, man, this sport is always changing.
Now, what do you guys have as a team that you want to accomplish? I mean, you've pretty much done it all now. I mean, the only thing I could think is the Knoxville Nationals together.
Correct. Yep. Knoxville Nationals for sure.
Okay, so what do you think makes y'all's cars you feel like so much better when you unload? You said you had good grip at the beginning of the night. Like, do you think your grip level is what makes you guys so good more often than other guys? You think that's what, or is it like your car rotates better? Like, what do you think the attributes of what your car does makes y'all consistently better than the average car?
What we're
Yeah.
asking is what bars do you guys have? Shock numbers,
Yeah.
everything blocked.
We get some ride heights.
Everything. Just if you want to just show us a paper.
Yeah, I'm sure Cody will be more than happy to give that to everybody. Yeah, just being the rotate and have grip, you know what I mean? Like, I know Brian Morrison builds an amazing engine, but so do a lot of other people as well, you know what I mean? And I feel like everything's got to be hitting right, but we just have a lot of traction, and I could kind of do my thing qualifying. I could change lines up or have the confidence to go somewhere else and make it happen. So yeah, just having grip. And man, when things are going good, and Sam, you maybe get this feeling on ASCS because obviously you're dominating that series, but when you could go to the racetrack calm and you're not out there forcing it, and you're confident in your team, your car, your ability, and you just go out there and do your job. You don't get super upset if you draw this pill or that pill. If it's split qualifying, there's only 20 cars in your group. If you go out 15th, you still got a shot to put yourself on the front row. And I feel like that's just a big thing of just relaxing, being confident, and then just going out and doing your job.
Do you now? That's a question I have. Like for me, when I run ASC, it's like I have this expectation from I don't know, like they expect me to win. Okay, like it's just expected, right? So then I put that pressure on myself. I find myself if I go race with you guys, they're not expecting me to win. I might have a good night, but I'm not expected to win. Like I have an easier time going to race with you guys as far as like the tension I have. When I go race with, say, ASCS, I put a pressure on myself because I'm expected to win. I'm expected to run up front. But you say you don't really have that. You're more comfortable and more relaxed because you're confident in your race team, I guess.
You're always stressed about the points. I feel like that's the big thing, right? We're always stressing about the points and racing for a championship. So when you're going to race a high limit race or somewhere else that you're not racing for points, I feel like that pressure is off. Like when we went to Port Royal for the Weichert, like, yeah, we want to go race good, but we're going to do our best, and wherever we end up, we end up. But I feel like Cody's his best attribute is that he's raced these cars and he knows how hard it is. And there's no ass chewing after a night if I do something wrong, or he didn't like something. It's oh, we'll try again tomorrow night. And Cody's a hothead, or viewed as a hothead, right? But with me and him, it's pretty level headed most times about what happens throughout the night. One night that sticks out to me, what is it, US 36 there, that super high bank track with the guardrail, in 1 and 2.
Yeah, 1 and 2. Yep.
I got
Camry.
Yeah, I got too high going into one year and crashed, and it was all my fault. And he didn't chew my ass. I was trying hard to move forward, and I crashed. And I feel like that's beneficial for our relationship and how much we race. And sometimes it's in our cards to run good, and sometimes it's not.
So when's the drivers union?
Oh yeah,
That was the latest headline I saw with your name on it.
I feel like I could say anything on social media and it blows up nowadays. Like,
That's awesome.
It's pretty amazing, messing with the most popular driver in the country does. It's just like, I got trolls everywhere on doesn't matter what platform. It's ridiculous. But it's all in good fun. But yeah, the drivers union, I don't know. That's the Chaz coming up with that idea, but I think there's some merit to it. But I think we need not an owners union, but we need like a sprint car union on these rule deals, and not just have high limit make rules up, or not have World of Outlaws rules, make up. Like we really got to get together, I feel like, as a country. If it's, somebody from Knoxville, somebody from PA, somebody from, if it's Indy or Ohio, probably Ohio, because that's a hub, somebody from California, and then maybe a representative from each traveling series. But I know there's the Sprint Car Council already, but they don't make rule changes, so I think there's some merit to having some sort of council or having some sort of governing body to control these rules.
Did you run a adjustable shock when you went to Port Royal?
Nope, never had the inflator deal or an adjustable shock.
So, David, one story I always wanted to tell, and you'll know where I'm going because we talked about this in PRI, because you added to the story. But the story I always tell about David Gravel is the first time I ever finished on the podium with Sam. was at Lebanon Valley. And it was a makeup race. And Sam ran third. I think he got someone on the last lap. We got on the podium. And you'd think like we'd be like super excited with like I think it was Sam's second podium and my first was Sam, and you'd think we'd be super stoked. But there was this little trailer parked beside us, and when that car pulled in, and I think it's possible you were pulled in on a wrecker even, but either way, when you pulled into your pit, there was like 20 people gathered around you, and they're all clapping because you just like finished a World of Outlaw race.
I didn't finish
because you just run a World of Outlaw race, and there's all these people clapping for you, friends, family, and supporters. And I told you that story at PRI, but then you told me the rest of the story, and I think the sprint car world would be beyond interested in that story. Could you tell me, tell everyone basically what happened after that weekend for you?
Might want to leave the name out of it.
Yeah, you've worked with me a little bit.
Yeah.
But so that was my first year in the sprint car. We were originally supposed to race at 305. I was too young. We had to have a meeting with the PA 305 series. Didn't work out, so we ended up getting a 360. But you had to be 16, and I was actually 15 at the time. And finagled some paperwork to become 16, and ran URC. So I think I ran about 12 or 14 races in my career in a sprint car at that point. And we brought our 360 to Lebanon Valley. We always knew there was, not enough cars for a full field. And the reason why everybody was happy was because we stayed on the lead lap the whole race till the last lap. And I think the leader passed me going to 3. I lifted, and you know how 3 and 4 is like treacherous. Jack Honshield, I believe, got injured twice in that corner. But
he actually won that race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I lifted going into 3, and I just drove it in the wall. I got too high and put it in the fence and knocked the front end out. But I literally chased Craig Delansky the whole race. He was on the same straightaway as me, and everybody was pumped because like I was by far the fastest 360. I could flat-footed around there where I felt like the 410s like maybe had to lift a little bit and could kind of keep up. So everybody was pumped that our speed was good, and we did crash at the end of the night. And we came from a URC event. I don't know if that was on a Sunday, but I feel like Lebanon Valley was always Sundays. So we raced somewhere Saturdays, and URC ran American Racers, and World of Outlaws ran Hoosiers. So we had shit flying everywhere. This is just a bunch of Connecticut people that never race sprint cars, and we're just making it work and happen and trying to have a good time. And we were parked next to Donnie Schatz's rig, and we had shit flying everywhere. And one of the crew guys said, what is this, a effing swap meet over here? And my sponsor, JRC Transportation, Ray Capella, he was there, and he didn't really like that. So I guess showing my promise of I could keep up decent with a 360, that off season, he did this all on his own. And I don't think everybody truly knows like what the 89G was, but he went on his own. He bought Chuck Swenson's yellow X trailer, if you remember him back in the day. But that he bought that trailer. Somehow he got hooked up with Brian Kemanaugh. That thing went directly from South Dakota to Kistler. And Brian Kemanaugh assembled 3 cars, and we bought 2 Mopar Kistlers from them. CA Customs lettered them. They came assembled, plumbed, seat installed. I mean, everything into Connecticut, ready to rip. And he's like, we're going to start our own team. And it was DDR Motorsports because it stood for Dave, and Ray. And yeah, we made it happen. We sold our truck and trailer. We sold our 2 360s we had, our Eagle cars at the time. And, Brian Kemanaugh was a big J&J guy. So that's what formed the 89G. And we wouldn't have been able to do what we did without Ray Capella. And his deal was he was giving me 4 years, like a college tuition. And after that 4 years, we closed up shop.
But basically, because you got your ass chewed by a World of Outlaw team and he saw it, that created David Gravel, World of Outlaw champion.
Was that crew member by chance Scuba?
No,
it wasn't Scuba. No, then it had to be. Who was it?
Sam told me not to praise.
We
gotta be-
probably shouldn't
It's
say.
got to be Brad.
But
No,
basically, the
it's not
guy
Brad.
is disgusted
Oh,
by
Brad was in diapers in 07.
No, not that
Yeah.
Brad. There was a Brad before that Brad.
No, it wasn't Brad. It wasn't
No.
Brad.
Damn.
But basically, he
Hey,
saw the
you'll
yard
figure it out
sale.
eventually. You'll figure it out
It
eventually.
was,
There you go.
there you go. I was running through all the years, and I'm like, okay, they had California Brad, and then they had new Brad, young Brad. So I'm like, yeah, no, I guess yeah, I could see that.
And yeah, you could see him getting out, seeing those tires all over the place, and just being fucking disgusted with David.
Yeah, I could see it fucking right now. I
Yeah.
could see it right now.
We had probably no business doing it, but yeah, it was. I got a participation trophy that night from all my.
Well, hey, it worked out pretty fucking good for you.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good. You know, my dad owns a body shop and makes a good living, but he was a hustler and he always was not afraid to ask him for sponsors. And we just kind of, you know, I didn't make any money driving the car. You know, I got 0%, and we just made it work for 4 years. And you know, just yeah, it all worked out.
JJ's actually in his head right now. He's thinking, man, I gotta fucking get this guy to come fucking yell at me when this big money guy walks by.
Yeah.
I gotta fucking pull this off.
I did get yelled at, but there was no money guy.
Yeah.
Mike,
JJ
no, let's
lost
just show you guys her dollies real quick.
Oh,
all
that's a
right.
famous show.
Gary.
Wow, they like them. You want
What
to
are
tell
their
them good
names?
night? Tell them good night. All
Night.
right, good
Night, night.
So when we were talking about the drivers union there, we kind of got into trolls and stuff. And we've said on the podcast, and since you listen to every single podcast and don't skip any of them,
Watches.
I'm guessing you heard the podcast where we said you're kind of being put in a villain role and you're kind of trying to embrace it, but we don't feel like you're really a villain. What would you say is the number one thing fans misunderstand about you?
That, you know, bump tapping a guy after the checkered is not really a big deal. And I don't think there's like some big problem between me and Kyle. You know what I mean? He had some issues with what was said on social media about, you know, high limit and stuff like that. And there was some misunderstandings, but you know, my beef with Kyle wasn't just from, say, Eldora. That was just kind of the boiling point for me. And it was something built up deeper than that, and there's a lot of layers to it. So, you know, I seen Fred Raymer and Steve Kinzer and Sammy Swindell do a lot crazier shit than I did. You know, so as far as the villain role and all that, when there's 2,000 people booing you, you know what I mean? Like, how could it's like giving you an alley oop or a wide open layup here to not do something to stir the crowd up or to make all those people cheer or boo more, you know what I mean? So I'm not just gonna sit there and pretend it's not happening. I'm gonna egg them on, and I'm a gamer. I like talking smack. I love playing basketball. I was always the shortest guy in the court, but I'm still talking shit and I'm still boxing people out and giving it my all no matter what. So like, I'm not going to be pushed around, and I'm going to give it my all on the racetrack. And you know, I still feel like I'm a clean race car driver. I know Lincoln Park came by, and that was a great moment. But I feel like I'm fairly humble. I feel like I'm really good with the fans. And I'm very, very active with them on social media, and try to be a genuine person. Like, I'm not faking trying to push certain things, right? I feel like I'm real. I'm here. If you want to talk to me, we could talk about it.
So I'm a little hurt that last week's issue isn't what you wanted to talk about. The things that it's tripping on my words. I'm pretty hurt that you didn't want to talk about the Kofoid thing. Did we pretty much get that accurate? Where you were basically trying to put him in a position where he had to make a decision, and you
Like,
weren't
truly,
direct.
like, he beat me off of 2, but then he kind of half-ass fell off the backstretch. And when I dove going into 3, like, I thought I had him cleared. truly, like, but he does this all the time. I mean, he is way more aggressive than I am. Like, how he even slid me coming to the white in 3 and 4. Like, I know Sam, I, and Dominic would never try that move ever in our lives. He's back 3, 4, 5 car lengths, and he sends his slide job and clears me. But like, he just does things that I don't or won't do, and he somehow got in the cushion as soon as possible and probably held that thing wide open, and he hauled ass around there for those 20, 30 feet. And got to directly side by side with me, and I truly wasn't expecting that. And the reason why I went short on the slide, because I thought I had it and I want to get to the cushion as soon as possible. Like, if I thought I wasn't going to clear him, I would obviously dove a little farther, because how that place is, you could cut off a lot of corner diving, but it would hurt your exit. But yeah, like, I did nothing in my mind malicious, and I didn't try to crash him or anything like that. And I thought when I fired off in there, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna, clear him. But I told him he scared the shit out of me. Like, he surprised me that he got there that fast. Like, he recovered amazingly.
So, did you notice, JJ, that he said
I
Sam
did.
and Dom made that
At
move?
the end of it, I was going to be like, I did notice that.
Well, he's seen what you did in Oxford. That's why he's saying that.
It's been a tough year for the old reputation.
I'll tell you what was crazy about that move, though, was Buddy wasn't far from fucking clearing you. Like,
yeah,
he was really close to squeaking by with possibly no contact. I mean, I'm saying 6 inches farther forward, and he clears you.
I think honestly,
connecting. I mean, it blew me away the speed he gained from off the racetrack, off the back straightaway to fucking the apex of 3 and 4.
I'm telling you, if you don't short slide there and you do a long slide, he beats you anyway, because he'd carry in and he just turn. I feel like he'd turn off and drive by you, to be honest. Like, I feel like for you to win that race, you had to short slide there with the speed he had coming into 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you would have long slid, I feel like he could have got to the middle and just turned down and maybe made more shoot speed. I don't know. I think so, though.
And if Kenzer or Sammy do that back in the day, it's just celebrated and everybody thinks it's awesome, and there's no social media,
Yeah, nobody.
It's just.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not like David doesn't owe him some anyway. I mean, being real. I mean,
Sam's just on here, just loving it.
I'm just saying, it's not like David doesn't owe him some from earlier on and last year. So
it's going to be a fun rivalry to watch, though. I think it's shaping up nicely. If we put tally marks
down, it would be like David 1, Kofoid 3 or something.
And again, my whole deal with all the past stuff is Larson's deal. We're doing this for 4th, 5th, or 3rd or whatever position. This is the last corner for a win. You know what I mean? Like, there's layers to all this, and points racing to all this, right? Where, to me, I'm in all these points races. Like, for Buddy, it's the end of the year, it's the last lap, it's for the win. They're just all different scenarios.
Totally agree.
Yeah, but would you agree Buddy's cleaned up quite a bit, though, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. He runs as aggressive as you can. He drives just like Larson, just like Rico. He drives like the California-bred aggressive race car drivers, and I think that Buddy has matured.
Yeah, I see that too.
The biggest one was him and Macedo at Huset's, when Macedo drove through the side of him, and he came back and passed Carson cleanly, where he could have easily just dumped him or did the same thing back to him, and he won the race. And, he did it the right way. I thought that was a big maturity for him. It was like a year and a half ago or whatever.
So, in addition to you never missing a podcast, we've generally heard a rumor that your crew actually does listen to the podcast. We're going to give you a chance. We're assuming every single time we've said something that pissed them off, they've probably just motherfucked us. We're going to give you a chance, though. Of the things we've said about David Gravel, What have you just been screaming at us, just wanting to say like "fuck you" about, or that we got wrong? What would you like to counter from shit we said in the past, where you're like, these idiots got it wrong?
I honestly can't think of anything. I feel like when you have 4 or 5 people on your show, you have a lot of different opinions, and they're all not going to be bad. Everybody looks at things differently, so you know, you don't agree with certain people sometimes, but nothing that sticks out to me.
Damn
Yeah,
it.
Daryl's getting happy because fucking Toronto's winning 6-1 in the
Dude,
bottom
they're
of the ninth.
smashing them.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
because I didn't get to run my JJ last week after the Toronto Blue Jays took out the Seattle Supersonics.
Fucking
in
devastation, Daryl. It's been a whole. Everybody talks about how long it's been. It's been never for the Mariners. The Mariners are the only team in major sports to have never been in. I was watching it with in Washington with my best friends from school. This could be the best day ever, and it was not the best day ever.
Yeah, and guess what? It still isn't.
No,
Yeah.
back to Seahawks
So-
Talking
season
shit now or what?
We're about to.
David was supposed to talk shit about us talking shit.
There clearly has to be something that pissed him off, but he doesn't want to say it.
I texted Dom and asked David to come up with a talking shit segment. Dom, did you send him the text?
Actually, we talked about it when we got on. I'm like, Daryl wants you to talk shit.
Yeah, I know there's no way he sent you the text because he still hasn't texted me back from 2 weeks ago. So
Yeah. Did you look at one of your show the we already did this.
Yeah.
You have 591.
I'm down to 534.
You've been
Good
diligent
job.
this week.
I'm one of those.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So, David, do you have anything you'd like to talk shit about?
I just I feel like people are soft nowadays, and I feel like with social media and replays, right? There's nothing missed nowadays. You guys just said if Steve or Sammy did something with no social media, it was all praised, right? So our world is changing, and I'm gonna embrace it. And I feel like the World of Outlaws social media numbers are by far up this year, and I feel like it's a little bit because Kyle Larson and I.
So,
I loved it. I thought it was awesome. That exchange was fucking.
So
That and
that's the
Cody,
general
Cody's been
impression
good
from-
too. Cody's had a few pretty awesome segments of
Yeah,
sound
Cody's
bites.
actually been a little more popular than you this year.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yep, you never know what Cody's going to say. There's no filter there.
So that's something I do. I've gotten that impression from you. You're very surprised that this turned into something really big, like the Eldora thing. Is that a fair thing to say? You're surprised people were so sensitive to it. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I just don't think it's that big of a deal. You know what I mean? I mean, there's run-ins always with people, and people are upset or are not or what, and everybody just views it as that one race, and it's not that. And yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's racing, and people aren't going to like the way people race other people sometimes, and that's just the way it is. And you go out and you race the next day.
I think the wow factor is normally after a race, if you're fucking pissed off with a dude or whatever, you're fucking hitting him in the side or maybe fucking ram him in the back or something. But to spin him around, that's kind of, it's not, you don't really see that very often. It was very well executed. I will
Yeah,
say.
It was high
No
risk.
damage to race cars. Am I accurate on that?
Yeah,
No
that
one-
was good. I can't say the same thing because I remember this one time at Little Rock that I
God.
wanted a chassis up after the checkered. So, you'll have that.
Yeah. He helped himself to spin out. He locked his brakes up and, kind of, he finished it off kind of for himself. And then once I had him sideways, I just stayed in the gas and finished him off. But yeah, it was clean. Nobody, my front wing wasn't even messed up. That is always too far forward.
Could you please tell us what was exchanged in those words?
I needed to get out of the car. It's hard to talk when you got a head sock on and a helmet, you know what I mean? But, and that was another thing people thought about, that we got sat down in the Outlaw trailer, It was more like, hey, let's go to a private place we could talk about. Um, but it's crazy, man. Like the people in the pits after the races and all that. And, Kyle had a problem with Cody, and that's kind of what the root of all the drama was. So we talked it out, and I really don't think Kyle has a problem with me. And I know he raced me differently because of that, but I think we're beyond that and we're past that.
And getting back to what you were saying, like people are soft. Like I don't I don't think there's like fights that there used to be in the pits back in the day, from the way I understand it. But there are a lot of moments like what you had. Like, I mean, Sam and I tell the story of him checking if Danny Wood was okay after that race at Short Track Nationals and destroying our frame. Sam, for a year, him and Paul McMahon were getting into it, and Sam would constantly check out how strong Paul McMahon's fuel cell was. Dom, I'm sure, has some stories. JJ has his Christopher Bell story that I love. Like, I don't think people realize these moments are fairly common, but they generally get resolved fairly easily. But the fans don't realize that, and I feel like they make things bigger. Is that fair to say?
Just the stars aligned, right? Kings Royal, sold out crowd. Kyle Larson, the most popular guy, in the country in any type of racing. And I just think the stars aligned to the lunar eclipse happened.
Surely you've had a moment where you got revenge on someone.
Me?
No, I don't think he has.
Never.
No.
Oh yeah. He caused someone to start a whole workout program. I forgot that.
That's right.
I wasn't even thinking about that one, but
I forgot about that.
I'm pretty mellow.
Yeah, Sam didn't know that story. I had to tell the story the other day.
I was blown away by it, to be honest.
Sam was like, Dom wouldn't really fight. What he is like, well, there was this one time at Trophy Cup.
Trophy Cup brings the worst out of people.
Like everybody. Like I feel like I get along with the majority of people. Back when I was on the road, I really had a way of I felt like I could walk into anybody's trailer. And so I'm just not a confrontational person, but I also I don't ever run from anything either. So I don't mind it. I mean, it's not.
Well, it's because you really can't.
Well, I'm not much of a runner. I will say that, Sam. With my physique, I'm more of a walker. If I'm running, someone else should fucking run too, because something's chasing me. But yeah, I'm just not.
Dom's a big 4-wheel guy.
I'm not a big.
Dom's a big 4-wheeler guy.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to get into a hurry to go down and tell someone what I'm thinking. I'll fucking walk there. But yeah, I mean, I've had a couple dust ups, but it wasn't as cool as David Gravel and Kyle Larson at the fucking Kings Royal. I'll say that.
Yeah, that one was perfect. That was perfect. So, do we have anything else for David, or can we let him go here? Is he free from us?
Thanks for being on, man.
Yeah, appreciate the time.
Thanks for doing this, fella.
Yeah, thank you guys.